Welcome back to Mark Holowitz the Vlogging. Today, you know what? I'm going to do another story time. Again, I believe that our car experiences, our experiences in life are truly those which form who we are today. We're literally a product of our environment, and some of those things that we've experienced through the years have given us influences or biases or just an outright life experience. And so I want to talk about another one today. So many years ago, I was driving, I had a Mazda RX-7. It was an 88, it was a GX, 5-speed manual. I loved it. It was blue. It was a great car. I thought it was probably the second best thing since the coming, but you know what? It turns out it wasn't. Along comes some friends of mine. One of the friends, they had this old BMW 325e, and it was a manual stick shift car, and I thought it was the greatest thing too. That was a cool car, and that was my first introduction to German cars. He bought himself this 3 Series car back in, it was an E30, which a lot of you guys are probably aware. That's a little boxy Lada style, but they're commanding big dollars these days. But anyway, one of my friends, in fact, had one of these E30s, and I was just flabbergasted. I love the way it drove. It felt a lot sturdier, even though it was a little bit older. I think it was a couple years older. My Mazda was about an 88, and his BMW, I believe, was around an 85 or so, 86. So they were pretty close, but my car was a little bit newer. But anyway, it's not about the BMW. What it is about is that gentleman had a brother, a twin brother, and the twins, they were both into these cars, these fun cars. So one day, the other brother says, "Hey, you know, I bought myself a used Porsche," and I'm like, yeah, okay, probably a 924 or 924 turbo or something like that. But then the actuality was we all went down there together in the BMW 325e, and we hustled on down to go look at this new to him, Porsche 911. So he has this 911, and what it was actually, it turned out to be a 1977 911S. You all know the 2.7 liter magnesium case, you know, those engines that pull apart and stretch apart. Either way, they were great fun. And that was, we showed up to this thing and we're all groping it and looking it over. And truly, that was my first experience at seeing a 911 in person. You know, not clearly the best example of the brand, but it was a 911 in all its essence. And I was just flabbergasted. That was my first, you know, witnessing this amazing new German car. You know, everybody, you know, Porsche is always that name that everybody sort of recognizes, but obviously, it's not something you see every day, or back in the day you don't. Today you kind of do, but back then it was pretty rare to see a 911. Anyway, so we get in his 911, and we're going for drives, and we're ripping around. We did this big 3-hour drive that night through the city, and kind of went through all the typical spots, the Grote roads. If you're from Edmonton, you'll know Grote Road area. You'll also probably know, you know, up the White Ave, Jasper Ave, kind of do the cruises. But then we hit some back roads, freeways, and it was funny. My buddy, he was getting a little bit kind of frisky. And it was funny because what he ended up doing was we pulled up to a set of lights. Lo and behold, there's a guy on a Harley. Well, Harleys are what they are. They're more cruiser, the noise, the presence, but they're not meant for outright speed. So boom, light turns green. Buddy starts pulling gears in his Porsche. He's first gear, second gear, third gear, and this thing's howling. And you see a little bit of puff of blue coming out the back every once in a while, and the screaming engine. And it was just amazing. Of course, anybody who's witnessed a flat 6 engine from the older air-cooled era can appreciate the way those things sound. It's just amazing. And here I am, just like in my glory. I truly thought I died and went to heaven. But anyway, here we are pulling gears, and we're outpacing this motorcycle, this Harley Davidson. And so my buddy's building up the cockiness as we go along. So we pull off, the Harley goes another way. And at this point, I'm just blown away by it all. And then we keep driving. And so then we come across another little experience. So lo and behold, we come up to a 5-liter Mustang GT. And so another set of lights. And again, as I mentioned, my buddy, he was all frisky. He's just feeling spry and he wants to go for a race. So then we come across this 5-liter Mustang GT. And we get going because there was some slow traffic, and next thing you know, there's an opening. Mustang gets on it. We get on it. Next thing you know, we're leaving them in the dust. I couldn't believe it. I'm thinking a naturally aspirated flat 6 Porsche 911 with 100 and I believe it was 75 horsepower thereabouts, 180 horsepower back in that generation. And we were outpacing this 5-liter Mustang. And it just, I look back and I'm just, it was hilarious. It blew me away. Then, on the other hand, of course, we're driving around a little bit more, just having giggles, shits and giggles, laughing, listening to music, cruising around, hitting the corners, going through some of the traffic circles. Of a lot of you guys are, again, from, you know, Canada or Edmonton area. We had a lot of traffic circles where you could just fly in at like mock chicken, come in, dive bomb the traffic circle and zip around it doing about 80, 90 and find yourself in a slight tail drift coming on the exit. So a lot of fun. Clearly not something I'd advocate for. However, back in the day, that's kind of what happened. So we're driving along and we come up to a set of lights. So my buddy just looks over, and back in those days, I mean, remember, you got to go back 25, 30 years. Back in those days, you know, racing like that was just something that kind of happened in the back 40, and not a lot of people, you know, said much about it, and certainly doesn't get the rep that, you know, didn't get the airtime that it does today. But either way, so we pull up to another set of lights, and at this point, there's a guy in a muscle car. But what I'll say is, it's not a muscle car. It was, do you remember those Monza Spiders? Chevy Monza. It's like a shrunken down. It's almost like Chevy's version or competition to the Pinto, or it's a small, lightweight, kind of, I don't know, it's kind of a muscle car, kind of not back in those days. And there's a Chevy Monza Spider, and I look over to this thing, and I hear, and this thing's like lumpy idle like there's no tomorrow. So I can't help but think, I'm like, look over at my buddy there, and I'm thinking, I don't think you're going to take this guy. It sounds like he's got something a little more, you know, going on under the hood there. So, buddy, a friend of mine says, the hell with it, we're going to take this guy. Because he's feeling cocky. He's like, 3 for 3? And I'm like, okay, let's go. Light turns green. Buddy just slips the clutch out, and he's gone. But you know what? That didn't matter. All the throttle, all the clutch slipping, woof, that we were doing didn't matter. None of it mattered, because what ended up happening was this Monza Spider pulling gears, big tire roast, and then pull and shift another gear, and then another tire roast, and then pulling gears and another tire roast. And I'm like, holy what does this guy have under the hood? Next thing I'm looking, my buddy's just rolling gears. He's pulling gears first, second, third, fourth, and he's getting nowhere fast. And I'm watching this car, this Monza Spider, just like rip and just leave us for literal dead. And I couldn't help but laugh, smirk. My buddy looked a little sad at that point. But either way, it is what it is. You take your licks. You're not, you know, when everybody thinks, hey, you're the toughest guy in the street, there's always somebody tougher. If there's always somebody bigger, there's always somebody faster. And that's something that he took a little hit that day. Either way, that didn't change my attitude about the Porsche 911. And that was my first experience going out cruising that day. And the 911 has literally transformed me to the person I am today, in the way that after I drove that car, or after I went for that ride in that car, I was on a nationwide manhunt to find myself my own 911. And lo and behold, I ended up selling the RX-7 and bought myself a 911 SC Carrera. Well, it was an SC with a Targa top. It had the little wing on the back, and it was great. And that was my pride and joy, and I loved that thing for a few years. And then that takes me to another story, how I fell out of love with that car and on to the next car. But long and short of it is, I'll get to that story another day. The bottom line is, my love for the Porsche 911 stemmed from that day where we went out ripping around in my buddy's new 911, or new to him 911, and we experienced the essence, the burning oil smell, the rattly engine, the long gear throws, the offset pedals, or the pedals that push upwards. I thought was really odd too. If you've ever been in those cars, you don't push the clutch down, they sort of push upwards. And so it's just one of those cars that just left a real lasting impact on me. And truly, to this day, I love the brand. And I've had numerous 911s since that day, just because I've loved it. And I was mesmerized by the Porsche 911. And since then, like I said, I've always got a special affinity for them. And that's where I'm at today. So, hey, love to hear you guys' thoughts. Do you guys like the 911? What do you think about that idea? Or do you have a similar experience as what I did there, where, you know, we went out racing and you thought you were, you know, all of that in a bag of potato chips, and then you were actually grounded. So anyway, either way, I'd love to hear your ideas, your stories, And if you have something you'd like to share with the channel, it would be great to hear from you. If you're not currently a subscriber and you happen to be watching this video, please do give it a smack, hit that subscribe button. It would be great for you to join, because really this is about the lifestyle, living the car lifestyle. Over and out.